In different parts of the world, indigo dyeing manifests itself in multiple expressions. However, it was once a lost art in Taiwan. Tang Wen-jun, whose passion for it is breathing new life into this art craft. Traveling throughout the world, she's followed indigo plants and has managed to revive its radiant colors back into Taiwan's indigo dyeing.
我有个梦想啊，就是我想要看遍全世界的蓝。
To give Taiwan this island its own unique blue, Ms. Tang not only grew indigo using Taiwan's soil and water, but also mastered every detail of the dye-making process, from managing the dye vats to dyeing. She's not just a farmer, but she also embodies the spirit of a chemist. In addition, she's traveled the world, merging techniques from China, Japan, and other countries. She's also constantly innovates, exploring new possibilities in indigo dyeing. This is her journey in finding her own unique blue color. This is Nantou, Taiwan's only landlocked county. The indigo harvest is underway here. For nearly 400 years, Taiwan was under the rule of European countries, the Qing Empire, and Japan. Non-native indigo brought by immigrants became a colonial economic crop, serving as a dye source for the Qing Empire and Japan. Taiwan is an island whose culture is a mixture of the countries who used to colonize it. However, with the end of World War II and finally its colonial rule, this industry gradually disappeared from Taiwan as well. It wasn't until 20 years ago that Ms. Tang and her teacher began the revival of indigo, bringing back the art of indigo dyeing to Taiwan. They promoted a concept called Taiwan Blue. This meant emphasizing plants grown in Taiwanese soil, and it also meant using dye extracted by the hands of Taiwanese people to color fabrics and artworks. Her process is a mixture of various techniques from her travels across the globe. To achieve this, Ms. Tang even brought soil bit by bit to grow and produce indigo on site. In other countries with a long history of indigo dyeing, the industry is more segmented. However, she opted an all-in-one approach, a rare setup in this industry.
早期还没有农场之前，我们都是跟农民购买，我们没有办法掌控前端的品质，所以我们有了农场之后，我们就能够去掌控所谓的蓝靛，我们自己生产的蓝靛的品质。那我们就从源头开始掌控。
The harvested indigo is soaked in water. Depending on the temperature, it ferments for about 24 hours. Indigo carmine gradually dissolves. The water reacts with the leaves, creating delightful bubbles. Workers remove the weight on the barrel and take out the soaked rotten leaves. Then lime solution is added. Stirring in air oxidizes the entire green solution. Once oxidized, the pigment becomes insoluble in water, turning blue-green. After settling, washing, and continuously removing the water, the desired dye, indigo, is collected on the farm. Here in Nantou is the National Taiwan Craft Research and Development Institute. They promote Taiwanese handicraft, culture, and industry. Ms. Tang's indigo dyeing studio is also here. Her indigo products include clothing, hats, and tote bags, characterized by beautiful gradients and bright colors. Her favorites are plant and floral motifs. Not limiting herself, she also does landscapes featuring mountains and water. Using different themes, she enjoys challenging herself with various dyeing techniques. Ms. Tang mixes indigo paste and adds it to the dye vat. She adjusts the pH of the vat with wood ash water. After adjusting the pH with wood ash water, maltose is added as a reducing agent. This essential prepping step turns the oxidized blue dye back to green.
温度的控制，然后还原剂的添加，在什么样的情况下添加多少的还原剂，好，然后这样子能够染出漂亮的颜色器，这个是需要有一些经验的累积。
She divides this working space into two areas, vats for raw material and the other as working vats. The solution must be clear during work. When the bottom liquid is yellow-green, indicating full activity, upon contact with air, it effectively oxidizes to blue on fabric. This is the heart of the chemical process in indigo dyeing. It means work can begin. The fabric is slowly immersed in the dye vat. Pulling the fabric out of the vat, one can see the soaked part gradually oxidize from green to blue. The pigment must adhere to the fabric before oxidation, so managing the vat's chemistry is crucial. Dyeing is often a slow, patient process. Tang Wen-jun aims for smooth gradient colors, not only overlapping dyes in the same vat, but also moving between vats of different concentrations. The speed of dyeing is carefully managed. During the process, the fabric is gently tugged to avoid splotches or even coloring from dye foam. This is a beginner's product. Due to uncontrolled dye concentration and chemical reduction, it results in uneven patches and a muddy blue. Ms. Tang uses a carving knife to create petal patterns. The stencil comes from Japan, but the technique is Chinese soybean paste. Made from soybean flour and lime powder, it's applied over the carved stencil. Lifting the stencil, the soybean paste left on the fabric blocks dyeing in those areas. This soybean paste technique originates from China. When employed, it can produce bold pattern with sharp lines. Once the fabric dries, the soybean paste hardens. The artist gently pulls the fabric, causing it to crack and fall off. This process is called paste removal. After washing, the fabric's original color is revealed.
当我们把它染在很脆弱的纤维上的时候，其实在处理的时候要特别小心，因为我们经常前面都处理好了，在后面那个除糊的过程就破掉了，或者走沙了，那一件围巾跟那件作品就这样就毁了。
Ms. Tang's skills exemplifies the Taiwanese spirit of blending multiple techniques. When the Chinese soybean paste technique is used, one can see that the lotus in this painting features sharp contours and vibrant colors. However, when the Japanese mochi paste technique is employed, the result features soft outlines, as seen in the pavilion in the background, and a sense of gradation in the distant mountains. Here we see her mastery of combining multiple dyeing styles. Mochi paste is made from glutinous rice flour, rice bran powder, salt, and lime. These materials are mixed with water, kneaded, steamed, and adjusted to the right stickiness for blocking dye. Applying paste with a spatula, removing the stencil, the adhesion of mochi paste is not as strong as soybean paste. It's easily washed off for repeated application to create layers. This is a very costly process, as after dyeing each layer of the object, it must be washed and dried. However, this also results in each object's distinct layers. Unrestricted by Chinese or Japanese process, Tang Wen-jun is familiar with various indigo dyeing techniques. To her, Taiwanese indigo dyeing may not have a long history, allowing herself to freely express her own style.
台湾就是一个融合的岛，那我们的东西也是融合了非常多国家的技术到我们自己身上之后，我们再把它发挥在我们的作品上，呈现出来我们台湾的风格。
Owing to Taiwan's history, artisans on this island cleverly combine the best of many worlds, and in doing so, they explore their own creative paths. Tang Wen-jun is a prime example of how artists push the boundaries. By using different materials, she finds various ways to showcase her visual art in a subtle manner. When artists like her do this, Taiwan's culture moves forward with the times. And as a result, it allows Taiwan to forge its own path and shape its own identity.